Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, whenever you are. Thank you for watching my videos. I'm here to show you how to get out of the matrix.
Like everyone else, you were born into bondage, born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch.
And today we're going to be talking, I'm here solo actually. I'm going to be just random thoughts, things that I was thinking about last night. What is money? How does it work? What's it all about, right? And a lot of people, why people can't seem to understand what money is. You get a lot of people who think, right? Oh, we just need more money. We need more money. I need more money, and they forget what money really is. Yes, you can steal more money, right? And what you're doing is, taking money, some things, somebody else's wealth, and giving it to somebody something that they worked for, may not have worked for, doesn't matter. And then, giving it to yourself. Whether you take it by force or you sneak into their house or you hit the print button, you're still stealing it. No matter which way you decide to obtain more money. And this is a concept that seems that people don't seem to understand, right? The part where you print more money, right? How it's theft, and it's a sad thing, right? Just that because you know what, our schools, right? Our schools just didn't teach you anything about money, and that was not um, done by accident. It was done on purpose. If you read the Creature from Jekyll Island, the money changers, right, which is what they called them back then, which are called bankers, of course. They created the greatest heist, right? When they created the Federal Reserve, and when they made so much money from the Federal Reserve, and they believe competition is a sin, and that they needed to keep this power. The best way to do so is through your consent, right? To keep the power. For you to believe that the power that they have is just a natural evolution of economic reality. And the best way to do that, of course, is if they control the schools. And so that's what they went on to do. They went on with a lot of money and a lot of wealth to control the schools and to teach people that what they were doing was righteous and correct. That what they were doing made sense, and this is why they heavily funded Keynes, right, in the past, right, heavily funded anybody who basically stated that this financial system was correct and the only way forward. And so it gave them the ability to steal money from everybody else without anyone noticing. It's kind of sad, but yeah, that's the way our world is today. And a lot of people, a lot of wealthy and rich and powerful people saw the fact that, wait a second, I've read this book, read the stories, right? Maybe they didn't read The Creature from Jekyll Island. They read other books that mentioned it because these guys, these rich guys, they did write about what they did and how they accomplished it. And so eventually people who did learn about it, they had two choices, right? One was to either support it or to fight against it and look crazy. And instead of fighting against it, they support it. And one of the ways they can support it is, of course, taking out debts and building a corporation that cannot fail is one way, of course. But that didn't work out for some corporations, of course, in the early days because they didn't have derivatives and so forth. And then another way, which was very clever, right, which Ford and so many companies use, is to get the government to make their business very difficult for others to get in, very difficult for basically anyone to build a car, to build to build a business in the finance industry, or to build a business in a specific type of industry. They learned this, of course, from the same banksters, right? Who set up the rules, helped set up the rules of their cartel. And don't get it twisted. It is a cartel, and the same with the automotive industry. It's a cartel because you can't produce a car with all the rules and regulations to sell to anybody. There's too many of them, right? For you to produce a car that that you could actually legally sell. Now, it doesn't matter. You don't really need to produce a car that has every single rule followed, right? Um, you could have the government could just say, okay, well, hey, um, this is a car that I suggest you buy because it follows all the rules, and if you buy the other type of car, that hey, you know what, you should you're playing with fire, and it's pretty dangerous, right? And you should be liable should something go wrong with that car and have anyone else injured. And that should be the fair rule, but it's not. And why is that? Right? It's because they have lobbied and created a moat around the car industry. And yes, you can cross it with a sufficient enough money and resources to do so. But it's a very it's a large obstacle to pass. And the same with banking, same with brokerage houses, same with many different skills. You'll notice that even becoming in the United States a hair salon stylist requires a huge hurdle, and that's not by accident. Becoming a taxi driver requires a huge hurdle. Yes, you're seeing a pattern there, right? This all came from the current banking system. They basically, when very intelligent people saw what was going on, they wanted to copy the same kind of form factor that the banks had, so they can have a monopoly, a legalized cartel, without anyone saying that it was wrong. And you can see this. I could think of some other places, like for example, accounting, law. You can see that all of this has huge moat that you can't join. Doctors, for example. Why can't you be a medical profession without going through many years of school? Sure, you could say, well, nobody will want to use my services if I didn't. But shouldn't that be the choice of the person? Interesting thought, right? Anyways, this coming back around to money, right? We've learned ourselves. We've been educated by the current system to accept what is, and not really think about the history of money and how it came to be. A lot of people would look at the Bitcoiners and think, well, you guys didn't work for that. You just got it free, or you got it for next to nothing, and that's not right. It's not fair. It's not fair. I get a lot of that, right? That if you got in early, it's not fair, right? And yes, you're right. It's not fair. Now, life's not fair. It's not fair that I was born black and I don't have white privilege, although I did get my white privilege card in the mail. Damn. I love that joke. Anyways, it's not fair, that a white person can't play basketball as well as a black person. It's just not fair. But that's just the way it is, right? I mean, it's not fair that a Chinese person, right, has a higher IQ than the average, or a Japanese person has a higher IQ. It's not fair, but that's just the way it is, and you have to accept these things, right? and understand that, hey, you know what? Just because somebody has some sort of ability that they're tall doesn't mean that we should cut them down to make them short. It just seems stupid, right? Um, and so my point is, right, that I got into Bitcoins early, partly because of luck, partly because of what I was doing at the time, and partly because I understood how our monetary system worked, and how that I wanted to build the same kind of system as well. And others, of course, realized the truth about Bitcoin ahead of time, and started to use it. And I understand why you might think that's not fair, and it isn't. But you had to be there. You had to, you know, get into an asset that nobody believed was going to work. Nobody believed that was going to be the world reserve currency and take over the world here, that as it has. And and it hasn't done that completely yet, but it's on its way. And you know this, and this is why we're here. This is why we're buying it. This is why we're interested in this particular asset. And when you compare it to gold, right, which was the first decision of money, there was a time when people didn't believe gold had any value. Think about it, right? Can you really consider that gold always had value? No, it couldn't have. How would it eventually get to value? Well, first off, we learned how to mine probably metals, and we came across gold, iron, and steel, copper, and silver. Right? We learned how to separate those two, separate them from the rock, and we found that, well, we can melt steel at a specific temperature and mold it and use it to as weapons and so forth. And it was very strong, and it was very durable, and a lot better. Yes, it oxidized, right? Like unlike gold and silver didn't oxidize, but they were too soft. They were not hard. You try to strike anything with silver or gold, they would bend and break. Um, and so these metals were considered useless for anything that we could use. Eventually, over time, of course, we learned that silver was reflective, and if you shine it up a little bit, it could be used as a mirror, of course, and it had that purpose. But how many mirrors can you possibly have? Right? Eh. And also, we learned that gold only is women seem to like the gold, right? It was a beautiful rock for them, a beautiful metal for them, and was attracted to the metal probably at first. I'm guessing we don't really effectively know if women was interested in the metal at all. All we know is that eventually it became jewelry, and as a first use case for the metal, and and then we figured out over time that it was not that easy to find, right? And the first people who did find it found a lot of it at first, and of course, if they realized that it was very rare and held it back and said, "Hey, you know what? I'm gonna save this because I think this thing is extremely rare." They would have taken a risk, right? Because it's not easy to smelt and turn into a bar or anything that you could save, right? And it was extremely heavy. So if you took that risk, right, you should have been rewarded. Yes, it's not fair that you figured it out first, right? But that's how it is. You figured it out first, and now you are going to be rewarded for all of that effort, right? And that's how how I and many others have been rewarded with Bitcoin. We figured out, hey, this is a valuable asset. that's going to be useful in the future, and we decided to hold it at much to our detriment in investment in other assets, of course. And this thing could have worked the other way. We could have had nothing. We could have received nothing, and it could have went to zero. It could have been nothing at all. We took that risk. We took that chance, and now we deserve the rewards of that risk taking. And and now I want to talk about the concept of money. And one of the things that people seem to not understand is that when we did switch to a monetary system, I bet that when everybody said, hey, somebody said, hey, I noticed that everybody has gold and likes gold. All the people love gold, right? Why don't we turn that into our monetary system to trade? Because hey, you know what? Everybody, all your neighbors and stuff want gold. Everybody wants gold, and it's easy to identify and to trade with, right? Because it's all the same. You think everybody went, yeah, that's a great idea. I'm going for it. Hells no. You could bet your top dollar that a farmer would have said, what am I going to do with a freaking piece of metal that can't be used for a knife or anything like that? This is useless. You could bet your top dollar that was what was said. Yeah, and you can see that that's the same thing that being said today, right? What do you want with a digital asset? That I can't hold, I can't touch, can't use it for anything else except for just finding some other sucker to buy it for. No, I don't want that. But they're failing to understand the concept of money, right? Both the farmer and the people of today. The concept of money is basically a medium of exchange, meaning that you want something that everybody else and everybody agrees that has value, and has a certain set of properties in order to successfully become money. Of course, the fungibility part, which it means that every single part, one coin is this equal to the other coin, and Bitcoin has that, and so does gold, right? If you smelt it and make it pure enough, it has you can make it these two separate coins equal, and I'm sure people found that concept very difficult to understand in the past. It seems like an impossible task today for people to understand that. Also, it has to be durable, meaning that it's going to last through time. It's not going to oxidize like steel does. It's not going to rot. It's not going to lose value or disappear over time, meaning it just evaporates or something like that. It has to hold its value over time, and gold proved to do so because it became rarer and rarer, harder and harder to find gold, and there's less and less of it as population grew, and people started to hoard and hide the gold that they did have. And so, yeah, we are seeing the same thing that's happening with Bitcoin. People are hoarding and hodling their Bitcoin, and it's increasing in its value and is reducing in supply. And the supply is inelastic, meaning that if there's more demand, there is no way to create more supply. You can say that about silver, however. That is well controlled over by the banking system, and there's no way that's going to escape the control of the banking system until the system actually collapses. Now, another key feature of money is that it. Now I'm trying to think about some. I have some other features, but I can't remember. But Anyways, I'm just rambling here. I'm just having fun, just chatting with you guys, and yeah, I really think that that there's lots of other features of money, and I can't think of it right now, and like my mind just went blank. But yeah, I think that people just need to understand all those features of money. And I'm going to do a video. Actually, I'm going to do an evergreen eventually on those things and to talk about it in a more formal sense, so that my thoughts are smooth. This is just a random thought process that I'm doing. Random video that I'm doing here, not really prepared, not really organized, and just chatting basically. And so yeah, I think that we're first to understand that how the features of Bitcoin will allow us to take humanity into a positive sense. Like for example, one of the things I also learned in the past is that whenever we went to a gold standard, a coin, and fair money, and fair and honest money, there's always been a renaissance, meaning that humanity grows very rapidly and very well. Because the reason why is because everybody is able to hold honest money and not being stolen from. And so they were able to produce. Once you have wealth, you're able to produce more. You're able to do less with more, right? With more money, more wealth. So you're basically when your wealth increases over time, you're gonna find, well, you know what? I want to do something else. I want to build something. I want to build something because I can do that with this capital, with this wealth, and maybe it'll be successful, maybe not. And you'll find more and more people working harder because they have the ability to do so without worrying about not being able to afford to eat and survive. They'll be able to produce things, cool things that other people will be able to use and build on top of, and we'll see amazing renaissance coming from going forward. I'm very excited about that. I really thought, for the longest while, I really thought that the world would go into a Great Depression and then go into basically what's a dark age, right? Sorry. And and now with Bitcoin, when Bitcoin was invented, right, the whole thing changed. I remember being a very depressing person in the past. Um, you wouldn't want to get near me because I would talk about, oh my God, this thing, our world. Nobody understands how gold is. They need gold. It's not gonna. It's gonna be so difficult to explain to so many people that they have to have gold or silver. They're not gonna believe it. They're going to want to. Because it's gonna be suppressed all the time. The prices, and they're gonna like only look at the price. They're not gonna understand what the value of it. And I was so depressed, right? Because when they do figure it out, it's too late, right? It's too late because the wealthy and the super rich have already got it. Now with Bitcoin, the opposite is true. The average person or the other people who are able to get into this first, and the wealthy have to get into it last, um, because there's enough liquidity for them. And so yeah, I'm glad that a lot of average people have got into Bitcoin. I hope they just hold and don't bother gambling on what's it called, exchanges that are just slot machines or casinos such as Bybit, Fimex, and Bitmex and BTC Mex. Yeah, they're great to speculate on and stuff like that. And if you feel that you can be responsible to do so, fine. Just just but the majority of people are not. So please don't use those exchanges to try to augment your wealth. Just don't be greedy. Simply buy and hold, and don't try to trade. You could do the little ladies method. It's simple and it's straightforward. Just as long as you follow the rules, no more than 5% and so forth, that's fine. But don't go into any kind of leverage exchange unless you are absolutely sure on what you're doing. You know exactly what you're doing, or else you will get wrecked and you'll lose your placeholder in history, and you don't want to do that. So, um, build up to at least one Bitcoin, and no matter what you do. Thank you for watching. Thank you for participating in this stream. Appreciate everyone, and we'll see you tomorrow in the next stream.